Today I'm going to go through the bent arm press handstand either from an L sit like this or from the floor like this. Now, some prerequisites, we obviously have to have a handstand of some sort. It can be up against the wall if you can't hold for very long, but ideally you'd have a freestanding hold on the floor if you're doing the floor version, or on the P-bars or boxes if you're doing the elevated version. If you are doing the elevated version, you want to have some sort of flexibility to allow the feet to come through. So higher the boxes, higher the P-bars, the less clearance you need. Some people can actually get through here, which I can't do without scraping my feet through. So I always have a slight elevation for my hands. Tight hips don't help. So let's first assess the movement by trying the eccentric. So basically exactly the same movement, but backwards. So first I go down to that bent arm, shoulder stand position, knees towards the chest, come through to the L sit. Now that's if I'm doing the elevated version. If I'm doing the floor version, I need that eccentric handstand push up. So head down towards the floor. Then I'll bring the hips down to put the feet down to the floor. Now what we're looking for there is any gaps, so any places in that movement where you fall or drop and you can't control it. The slower the better. Now if you do have the control to go very, very slowly throughout the movement and show control to the point where you can hold a conversation, that could be great training to get lots of time under tension throughout the range of motion. But normally there'll be the gaps. So in the gaps, we need to try and work out how we slow down those movements. So with the elevated version, it might be the bit where you come down to shoulder stand and pass through to the L sit. If it is, we can isolate that movement. So first, go into that shoulder stand position here, ideally straight legs, because you'll be straight legs from the handstand, knees towards the chest. Roll through to the L sit. So then we could break it down into the two movements. So you have the eccentric handstand push up. So from the handstand slowly coming down to the shoulder stand. There, I could have toes against the wall if I needed with that one. And then separately I'll do that shoulder stand through to the L sit as slow as possible. For the floor version, it's very common that people struggle with this bit, be able to get into the correct position where the hip is directly on top of the hands. If you can get the hips directly on top of the hands, it means the toes are very light. So then when you bend the arms, you're just gonna fly up. If I'm more like this position, now when I bend the arms, see I've got lots of weight in the feet still. If I can encourage the body to go that way by having the hips more on top of the hands, now the feet are lighter, bend the arms, and it's easier to bring the feet up. Things are gonna happen faster. So working on this forward fold flexibility, getting the elbows closer towards the toes, and then just practicing this by itself and getting more and more elevation with the hip up and over and get closer to get the hip on top of the hands is really going to help. We could then play with partial range or using momentum to get up into the position. Now this is going to happen quite fast, obviously, because we're increasing the momentum. So there's more potential to spill out. So if you tend to overbalance, you're going to fall over towards overbalance. If you do it back to wall, you're going to hit the wall a little bit harder. But think of the momentum as a dial. So we want to slowly turn it down and not be crazy fast, but just use just enough to get through the movement. So from the L sit, it could just be up to the shoulder stand, push up a little bit and come back down again. And then just slowly increase the momentum, getting the shoulders to come down, the hips to come up, and then push. Come back down, go again, push, and then slowly increasing the height with more momentum, but also just more push towards the overbalance. If I can push it up towards overbalance as I get up, I'm going to fall up into the handstand instead of feeling really heavy in that direction. So it's nearly like I'm pushing myself up and over and nearly falling over. And if you get that rotation right and the timing right and the push right, you'll then be able to get some reps where you go up and then actually catch in the handstand. You could also then add the eccentric on to come back down again, which is more time under tension. So a really good way of doing it would be using the momentum method to get up, hold the handstand, slow, controlled, eccentric, controlling the movement all the way down. Same thing with the floor version. I can have my weight back in my feet, but as I rock forwards, bring the arms down, start to get the feet to come up. And again, trying to commit to overbalancing without face planting. Another way to make things slightly easier is to use an incline. So the beach would really work really well because you go down towards the water and have the feet up higher than the hands. Or if you have a setup like this in your back garden, because you've got a sandpit in the back garden, you can make that incline hands down lower than the feet. Now when I come forwards, more momentum is going to go up and over. My hips are already higher and it's much easier to get up. But just make sure you're ready because you're more likely to go over with that one. And then once you feel like you have enough control, you can then just work on repetitions, going as slow as possible through the movement. So you can do it controlled, both up and down. And I recommend you work both the elevated version and the floor version. And with the elevated one, I'd do P-bars and steps and try and mix it up as much as possible. Let me know if you have any questions with this one. I'd definitely work the bent arm version and the straight arm version. Some people, if you're a bit stronger, are going to find the bent arm one probably easier than the straight arm. I definitely had the bent arm version way before the straight arm version. And normally the opposite, if you've got good flexibility but you're not so strong, you're going to find the straight arm version easier. So definitely work that bent arm as well. If you're interested in coaching, check out the website, www.paultwyman.com.au, and I've got a scheduling on there now for my Zoom sessions. So I offer 30-minute private Zoom sessions. They're really good if you want some detailed feedback on exactly what you're working towards. And I'll speak to you soon. Cheers, guys.